to sleep. I pray the Lord that I wake again. I wake again. I pray the Lord that I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord that I wake again. I wake again. I pray the Lord that cause I've been working in the kitchen with the dirt on my hand. God tell me why nobody love me but you. Born inside the belly with the gun in my hand. Ain't no time for pity, got some thugging to do. Working in the kitchen with the dirt on my hand. God tell me why nobody love me but you. Born inside the belly with the gun in my hand. Ain't no time for pity, got some thugging to do. I've been working and writing and working some more. Searching for truth and truthfully I'm hurting to know. Why many of millions live where the murderers go. On a daily dealing with you never heard of before. See, I got motives of moving my mama plenty of miles. Send me the paper before you even send me the files. I don't kick it with cause they energy wild. You by association like the enemy's child. I'm wondering really where they gather to go. They hate to see you win and they be glad when you fall. That's why I came with shooters never passing the ball. Who would toe tag them and everybody tagging along. See, it's a tragedy, really had to be silly to try. I can show you the way, but is you willing to fly? I'm breaking down the layers, I be peeling your pride till I get to the dead center where the feelings reside. Look in my eyes, you see it lacking the lust. I'm smacking the buster, cause honestly I ain't got the patience to try to deal. Everybody dreaming they making it out for real. So I don't give a how you take it or how you feel. There's a war outside the window and everybody a target. I'm worried about the ending, cause look at the way we started. I gotta get it regardless, cause be living heartless. Gardeners in the war and there's warriors in the garden. So give me a break, give me the space, I'm needing the peace. Give me a legion, I lead them with my feet in the streets. I know they hate it, they show them without being discreet. I see the future, I bet I'm never seeing defeat. Looking for answers, but all they gave me was trauma. I'm trying to cover this drama with plenty packets of petrol. So I be kneeling and looking up to the ceiling. I'm praying to get some healing for everyone in the metro. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord that I wake again. I wake again. I pray the Lord that now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord that I wake again. I wake again. I pray the Lord that cause I've been working in the kitchen with the dirt on my hand. God tell me why nobody love me but you. Born inside.
All right, family. Welcome to Paradigm Shift TV 314. This is your brother, DMG the Poet, a.k.a. Brother Pianki. And we got another powerful show for you, trying to give you some powerful information. But before we get into our spiel, let me do my usual greeting. Let me say Hotep to my Kemetic brothers and sisters. Let me say God bless to my Christian brothers and sisters. Let me say Assalamu alaikum to my brothers and sisters in the NOI. Let me say Islam to my Moorish brothers and sisters. Let me say peace to my brothers and sisters in the nation of gods and earth, them 5%ers. Let me say what's up to my atheist brothers and sisters. Let me say peace to my Abo brothers and sisters. And let me say Jambo to the rest of my brothers and sisters throughout the African diaspora, be it here in the wilderness of the United States of America or beyond. Y'all know I say that greeting for one reason and one reason only. It's because if you're Black, I'm with you, and I hope that you with me. Our different ideologies should not keep us from uniting, and we can have unity without uniformity, and we can disagree without being disrespectfully disagreeable. And our guest today is the one and only, the infamous Vocab Malone. What's up with you, bro?
My bad. My bad. There we go. All right. What's up? Hey, man, thanks for doing this. And it's good to connect with you again. All that.
Likewise. So what made me want to chop it up with you this particular time is I saw a conversation you had with a gentleman who calls himself a Southern Israelite or a Southern Protestant. And I had a discussion on my channel with Captain K from ISUPK, who everybody know, and another Israelite brother by the name of Gideon Israel. And Gideon brought out the similarities between One West and British Israelism. And the only other place that I had heard a little bit about that was from your channel. So I was like, let me find out about this stuff. So, I went to the foremost expert in our community, that being you, to get some info on this stuff. So take it away.
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing called Anglo-Israelism. Originally, it was British Israelism. But as it got spread out to other people of European descent, they made it not just British Israelism, but Anglo-Israelism. Most adherents don't refer to it that way. Sometimes they do. They're not as opposed to it as, say, Hebrew Israelites are opposed to Hebrew Israelism. And by the way, the whole designation of Hebrew Israelism, or sometimes Black Israelism, comes from the predecessor in the academic literature of British or Anglo-Israelism. That's literally where it's like the same idea. And the reason is because they were first. You know, they were clearly first, probably about a century by most estimates. Although, just like with Hebrew Israelites, if you go to their sources, they'll try to show you that it goes all the way back. In fact, I guess I can share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me hold on. Let me find this. Where'd it go? There's some stuff I want to show, but yeah, okay, I found it. Yeah. All right, let me share my screen. I'm gonna go to this. Let's start off. Let's go to an Anglo-Israelite website. That's what we're gonna do here. Let me share my screen here. It's gonna put this on there. It's gonna be something. Hold on. Let me wait till I switch over the actual thing there first. Okay, now, okay, yeah, there, I got it up now. Okay. Here we are at the Anglo-Israel archive.net. And the popularity of this ideology is definitely in decline. It's you might be able to say it's in a free fall, but it was not always in a decline. There was a time where it had its ascendancy. And even though I do believe that Hebrew Israelism will be more long-lived than this, it's not going to be in its ascendancy forever. You know, these guys think they're doing something. All these religious movements, these kind of short-lived ones, this is kind of what happens. You know, they have this growth phase and they burn out. It's rare to make it the status of what you might call a world religion, like Islam or something. You know, the competition is stiff. So here we are at Anglo-Israel-Archive.net, and an online archive library dedicated to archiving works by various preachers, authors, and teachers who believed and taught the Anglo-Israel message, that the Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, Germanic, Scandinavian, and kindred peoples are the true physical descendants of the covenant Israelite people of the Bible. Now, ask yourself, could you replace this lingo and make it a Hebrew Israelite website? Yes or no, right?
That's exactly what I'm tripping off of. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah,
so,
no, exactly. And now, obviously, this is a website from, you know, we're 2022, but this lingo goes back way back in the day. So this is a list. They try to show, I mean, I can't tell you how similar this is to Hebrew Israelism. They try to show this is not a new belief. It goes back to the Apocrypha. Wow. Just now, Protestants, I'm a Protestant, I'm a Calvinist. People know and they don't like it, but I am. We don't hold to the Apocrypha, not because of some tradition we were handed down, but because we believe that the place for the Old Testament canon to be established was within the framework of the Hebrew community, the Jews, the Israelites of that time. And the indication on every level is that the canon did not include the Apocrypha for them. In fact, it's the other way, where there's books in the Old Testament today that we use that Jews debated if they should be in there, specifically Esther. Esther was, now I'm not saying Esther's not canonical. I'm saying that was a hotly contested debate throughout the ages. And one of the reasons is because if you read Esther, the original edition does not mention the actual word God in it. But interestingly enough, in the Apocrypha, there's later additions made to the book of Esther. And guess what they do? They've got her fasting. They've got her praying. They've got her saying the name of God is all in the book in these additions. Now, I'll just bring that out real quick, because what it shows is part of the Apocrypha, the impulse in the books that became known as the Apocrypha is kind of like filling gaps and stuff like that. So it's like, well, actually, this should be in Esther too, but it's clearly a later edition. That's why it's not about making a book more pious. It's about what did the book originally say. And those late additions to Esther that are included in the Apocrypha simply do not go back to the date of the original composition of Esther. And that's why they, along with the rest of the Apocrypha, should be rejected, along with other reasons. But look at this. It starts off the website quoting 2nd Esdras. And look at this. The writer, Look at this, bro. The writer of that book seems to believe that the Israelites that went into Assyrian captivity later migrated northward into the Caucasus mountain range into Europe. Thou, Esdras, sawest that he, God, gathered another peaceable multitude unto him. These are the 10 tribes of Israel, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land, Canaan, into the time of Hosea, that's Hosea, king of Israel, whom Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so they into another land. Now it's in brackets where it says Asia Minor. But they, the Israelites, took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. And look at the background. Look at the brackets. Over the Caucasus Mountains into the lands we now call Europe and beyond to the North America continent, among others. In brackets, that they might keep there God's statutes, which they never kept in their own land of Canaan. Now, the text does not have all the brackets. The brackets are inserted, but they're interpretive. This is interpretation that the author here or the Anglo-Israelites put in here. The text does not say all this Caucasus Mountain Europe. It says where never mankind dwelt, and it doesn't say all this other stuff. That it does say, though, it picks up where mankind never dwelt, that they may keep their statutes. So my point by saying this is the Hebrew Israelites do the same thing. They actually use Second Esdras. And they try to say, oh, look, it's the land over here, wherever land they... Now, actually, Hebrew Israelites have different theories. Some will put this into Africa. Others actually end up making this America, the guys that focus on the native element. But they use this passage to basically... it does show dispersion of Israel, which is true. So we're not mad at the Apocrypha if it counts when it has real history. But it doesn't specify where. So everybody wants to make it into their place.
Exactly.
And that's what these white folks are doing right here. Read it, you know?
That's crazy though. Because like as I'm reading it, I'm like, it's like a parallel universe to the Israelites that I'm used to talking to. So I'm like, damn, it's the same rhetoric, just reversed to another people group.
That's exactly it. Now, the Hebrew Israelites are like, oh, look, white folks are copying us again. But everyone, we got to understand there's this thing called a calendar, and there's these things called watches. And my point by saying that is this rhetoric, not this literal website, okay, but this rhetoric was before Hebrew Israelism. It just was. Now, again, let me define. I guess I really define. Let me define British Israelism. I'm going to briefly define what it is here. It's a system of belief that identifies the 10 tribes of Israel, which it says were lost, with the Anglo-Saxon nations, in particular the U.S. and Great Britain. The events affecting them are seen as fulfillment of biblical prophecy concerning Israel, because they believe they are Israel. And so that's what it is, which, again, I mean, this definition, you could just change it a little bit and it would be Hebrew Israelism. You know, it'd be the same thing, right? Yeah. Of course it would. And let me read something here. I'm going to read just so I'm going to have something from their own words. I know I'm going to get back to what's on the screen, but this is from an organization called Kingdom Identity Ministries. Now, if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know, what kind of group that is. It's interesting. Ron Shields, his organization is called Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. That's literally what it's called.
What we're about to say.
Yeah, no, this is from their doctrinal statement of beliefs, though. And listen to this. This is so insane to me. But see, Hebrew Israelism is insane too. But watch this. We believe the white Anglo-Saxon, Germanic, and kindred people to be God's true, literal children of Israel. I'm quoting from the Kingdom Identity Ministries doctrinal statement beliefs. But let me not stop there. Watch this. Only this race fulfills every detail of biblical prophecy and world history concerning Israel, and continues in these latter days to be heirs and possessors of the covenants, prophecies, promises, and blessings Yahweh made to Israel. This chosen seed line, making up the chosen nations of the earth, stands far superior to all other peoples in their call as God's servant race. Only these descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel scattered abroad have carried God's word, the Bible throughout the world, have used his laws in the establishment of their civil governments, and are the Christians opposed by the satanic antichrist forces of this world who do not recognize the true and living God. Now, let me read this, but it's going to get worse. I'm quoting from their book, everyone. We believe in an existing being known as the devil or Satan and called the serpent, who has a literal seed or posterity in the earth today, commonly called the Jews.
Wow. Oh, man.
No, let me read this. Let me show you this is Anglo-Israelism anti-Semitism now. These children of Satan through Cain are a race of vipers, antichrists, who have throughout history always been a curse to true Israel, the children of God, because of a natural enmity between the two races, because they do the works of their father, the devil, and because they please not God and are contrary to all men, though they often pose as ministers of righteousness. The ultimate end of this evil race, whose hands bear the blood of our Savior and all the righteous slain upon the earth, is divine judgment. So, I mean, do you see what they're saying? But here's what's sad. This section I just read, the Hebrew Israelites would totally agree with the Anglo-Israelites about that section.
Right. That's why I'm laughing, because I'm like, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah. Now let me watch this. Look at this. Here's where you get into the segregationism. We believe that as a chosen race elected by God, we are not to be partakers of the wickedness of this world system, but are called to come out and be a separated people. This includes segregation from all non-white races who are prohibited in God's natural divine order from ruling over Israel. Race mixing is an abomination in the sight of Almighty God, a satanic attempt meant to destroy the chosen seed line, and is strictly forbidden by his commandments.
Wow. And just so we clear,
right,
this was about 100 years before Hebrew Israelism, as we know it, Black Hebrew Israelism as we know it.
Yeah, the first the first times we see it is in that spot. I mean, I'll show some other things from some old works here, but let me show you. Let's continue on this website now at the anglo-israelarchive.net. So they try to say it starts in the Apocrypha. And now, just like Hebrew Israelites, even though you don't have people literally saying, hey, white folks are the Israelites, they'll take any random statement that some European made along the way and turn it into Anglo-Israelism, as if there's like this long train of people who knew, which is the same thing these guys do. So they have these quotes, which I don't think that's what most of these folks are actually saying. That's not what most of them are saying. But, da-da-da-da-da-da. It's funny. It says, I'm just looking at the sources there. So here they're saying in 1614, here's a guy. This says the Celts come out of the Hebrews. That's what that is. And they have little pictures here with everybody. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, here's where you start getting like more into, I think, what we could call Israelism proper, in my understanding. So 1590. So, I mean, this is where you start to get it. French Huguenot counselor, a lawyer, published a book, 10 Lost Tribes Found, advocated the English Anglo-Saxon people being from Israel. And here's what the French newspaper in 1913 said about the book. And you can read the quote there. So, you're starting to get into it a little bit more. And here now they talk about in the specific of the English language here. But notice how they got this long train of everything. You see all this? They have connections, da-da-da. And I hope people here you got this guy that refers to British and American people as British Israel. God's America, Israel. So you're seeing all this. Here, I want to show this. Not rather to show it was okay. Sorry. Yeah. So I just want everyone to see this. So look at this one. Here's another. This is one of the first guys I heard about when I started studying this. Reverend John Wilson. was a Scottish Presbyterian minister and author of the book Our Israelitish Origin. The book was created from lectures he had given during the late 1830s, and then the book was published in 1840. The book was successful at spreading the Anglo-Israel message throughout the English-speaking European countries and laid the groundwork for more information to be discovered about the Anglo-Saxon heritage of the Israel people. So notice I am reading from an Anglo-Israel website, but this is stuff that will appear. You'll see it when you look into the basic essence of what they're saying here. You'll find it whenever you find any history of Anglo-Israelism as well. You know, look, here's a small booklet, The English, The Descendants of the 12 Tribes. It's from 1873. And then, now you have people getting converted to this. So Dr. George Moore was an English physician and author, so not just the uneducated. He read John Wilson's book, became a proponent. In 1856, published Ancient Pillar Stones of Scotland, Their Significance and Bearing on Ethnology, and then published Lost Tribes in the Saxons of the East and the Saxons of the West. So I mean, you're seeing all this. And now we're getting into the 1900s. I mean, just reading some of it, though, is funny. Hey, look at this one. Reverend B. Murphy authored the book in 1816 titled Precursory Proofs that the Israelites Came into Egypt and Ireland.
Wow.
And later on, the book, The Advocate of Israel in the Isle of Aaron. Okay, so yeah.
So I'm guessing they would strongly disagree that King James is black.
Yeah. So actually, apparently these guys believe, some of these guys believe that I don't know if they still hold it, but that monarchs on the seat of the throne of England were actually descendants of King David.
Wow.
And yeah, so they would hold that they were, white folks, But I mean, you see all these titles, right? Look at this one. 47 identifications of the British nation with the lost tribes of Israel. Over 250,000 copies sold.
Wow.
I've actually read some of this one. It's very interesting stuff. And a lot of these people are influenced by Wilson. But so they have little bios of these people. A lost people and vanished scepter. So they forgot who they were. And then the ruling authority disappeared. Anglo-Israel, the Jewish problem. I actually, hold on. Think, is that the one I have? No, that's not the one I have. Wait, oh yeah, I do have that one. Yeah. So that one, you see the one on the screen? Mm-hmm. Pastor Thomas Rosling. I have a reprint of that. Okay. Anglo-Israel, the Jewish problem and supplement. So I actually have this one, and it's been, let me show you this. This has been actually reprinted. So it's like it's not one of those old books. It's like made in a nicer thing, right? And so I have some of these Anglo-Israel books, and they're really interesting to read because it's like you're reading Hebrew Israelite literature just from a different perspective. Look at this: the Shemitic origin of the nations of Western Europe. I mean, you see all these. So the lost 10 tribes, Anglo-Israel. Hold on, I think I just have another one I have. Lost 10 tribes.
And look, I just want to point out all these books that Vocab got, and everybody try to make the suggestion that he only concentrates on black Hebrew Israelites. Clearly, that's not the case. As we see, he got books on this particular branch of this doctrine, which is obviously, as we can see, all predicated on European people of European descent making the same claim. So I think we just debunked that particular accusation against our brother. But
now that is true, which I appreciate. Now, it is also true that I've never seen these guys out on 19th Avenue. And also, I don't know any friends who converted into this. I do know some friends who have converted out of it. I actually know a Hispanic brother who attended a church that believed this. And he was like now he's a Christian. He actually attended this guy's church, Herbert Armstrong. He wasn't in there when Armstrong was alive, but he was there after Armstrong died, the church that continued. The guy I'm talking about. I think that interview is actually up on my channel. So
Hispanics can be a part of this particular
at least in the worldwide Church of God version of it. Okay. At least in the world. So The Worldwide Church of God is one of the biggest modern propagators of Anglo-Israel doctrine, because what happened is a guy named Herbert Armstrong was on the radio for years, and a lot of just average people listened to him. And so actually there's a number of books that came out against what's called Armstrongism when he was popular because of his radio ministry. And they would, my understanding is they would kind of let anybody in there, but it was like, no, but it was taught that, hey, Europeans are the real, Israelites. So like, for example, this book, The Plain Truth About Armstrongism, an update expose of the Worldwide Church of God, 2nd edition, Roger Chambers. Roger Chambers is a professor at Florida Christian College. Well, I don't know if he still is, because a lot of these resources are older. This is actually one of the newer ones. This is Baker Bookhouse. Baker Bookhouse, originally published in 72, 2nd edition in 88. So this, Baker Bookhouse is an evangelical publishing group that if a lot of people know. And so that's an example where he's focusing on the Armstrong element because they were the most popular purveyors of this. But yeah, anybody could be a member. I don't know about some of the other branches. I think some are more like classic white supremacist. And now what's happened is distinctive Anglo-Israelite ministries and churches are very small, on the decrease. However, what's happened is, and I'm not the expert on this, but this is my general understanding, the Christian identity folks have taken a lot of the basic ideas of Anglo-Israelism. And Christian identity folks are the ones that sometimes you'll see that, kind of come in the news when they'll have a compound somewhere and they're part of a militia a lot of times. Not all of them, but some of them kind of do this kind of thing. And that's part of what they do, as well as, from what I'm told, the Klan. My understanding is the Klan has adopted a lot of the modern day incarnations of the Klan have adopted a lot of these Anglo-Israelite ideas. It's like part of what they do. So even though there's not these distinctive Anglo-Israelite branches as much, they still are. You can find them online. In fact, I'm working on having a guy on my channel, one of these guys come on my channel.
That's not surprising, actually, when you think about it, though.
Right.
They hatred of black people, they hatred of Jews. So that's right up their alley.
Well, it's interesting. The way that these Anglo-Israelites would prove their identity is from Deuteronomy 28. But hold on now. If you've ever read all the way through Deuteronomy 28, the beginning part are blessings.
Okay.
So the white folks use the blessings, saying only one nation or people has inherited these blessings. And they go to great lengths to try to show how they've inherited the blessings of Deuteronomy 28.
Wow. And
then they prove they're the Israelites because they're the people. So they mainly did it basically upon the back of the success of colonialism.
Yeah.
They would use the British Empire success was evidence of the British peoples. And if you notice, it was in that little statement, remember I read how it said these peoples propagated the word of God and all this. They're thinking of like colonialism and missions together. Right. Christian flags, Christian wars, kind of all that. That's what they're talking about there. Bringing the truth of the word of God to all these people all over, during that. So it's pretty wild.
It's wild how the two kind of contradict each other, but at the same time they using the same talking points, even the same scripture, but different aspects of the scripture. This is crazy, because I didn't even realize how close it was in the rhetoric, and then for you to say that they use the same scripture except. Black people are using the curses, and then they are using the blessings. Yep. This is crazy.
So I have asked Hebrew Israelites, why is it not legitimate for them to use the blessings, but it's legitimate for you to use the curses? If that's the way we're going to use Deuteronomy 28, which is not even intended to be used as a identifier of a lost people. But if they're going to do that, why is it legitimate to use the curses, but it's not legitimate to use the blessings? There's no answer to that, because
I was about to say, what response do you
get? I've never heard a good answer. Come on, Vocab, we're the people of the book, that kind of like special pleading. There is no answer. And check this out. A lot of people don't know that to a certain extent, Mormonism also is a purveyor of elements of Anglo-Israelism. Not 100%, but they have certain elements here. And man, I want to.
Mormons include kind of like One West includes Native Americans.
Yes. So they do. They include Native Americans, and it's interesting. If anyone knows a Mormon who is sealed in the temple. So this isn't just a Jack Mormon. So I live in Arizona. I'm originally from Ohio. My family's I got family on the East Coast. You know, that's where I wear Buffalo stuff because my family lives in that part of New York. But you know, now I live out here, and there's like certain things you learn because Mormons are more prominent. One of them is Jack Mormons. Jack Mormons are like Mormons who don't necessarily take anything serious, but they kind of attend, or maybe their wife does. But a Jack Mormon's kind of like a bootleg Mormon almost. I'm not talking about then. If you talk to a temple sealed Mormon, so that's someone who went through all the right rituals, did all the right things, and then was sealed in the temple. So you have to get a temple recommend. It's a whole process with these Mormons, right? Well, when you go through this process, at some point they whisper in your ear what tribe you are. They whisper in your ear what tribe you are. They tell you. Wow. And so a lot of them will believe that, like, you know, that they also, in fact, let me see. I think I was having a conversation. I'm not going to say, we probably wouldn't mind if I said his name. It's my buddy Omar. He wouldn't care. Yeah. Check this out. Yeah. So I sent him a video. I sent him this video. Why Mormons talk about the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is a Mormon video. So this is a Mormon guy on YouTube talking about why they do this, right?
Okay.
And look at his response. My mom is Manasseh, but everyone else in my family got Ephraim. Actually, every Mormon I know is Ephraim. So, and here's what's interesting about it. So his mom is Peruvian. And so they knew that. So when they whispered in her ear, they gave her a different designation. But all the other Mormons he knew were probably like, you know, white Mormons. So almost all Mormons are designated as Manasseh. And look at this. There was one missionary I knew whose father was a Jewish convert, and he actually got Judah.
Wow.
So this is my buddy who did a 2-year mission trip. Right. So he did this. And so what I'm showing you is other places where elements of Anglo-Israelism are that people aren't aware of. It's just not as prominent these days. So he's saying he had a friend whose dad was Jewish and converted into Mormonism, and he got Judah. And then he put whatever. It's all made up. Imagine converting from Judaism to Mormonism anyway. Anyways, yeah. So that's what he put. So see, these things, you know, these guys don't realize a lot of people have been claiming to want to be Israel, you know, and it's like, and it's like it's a thing. So I think people should understand that and pay attention to that. And it's right there, even in Mormonism. In fact, there's an interesting movie you can watch called September Dawn. It actually stars John Voight, who is Angelina Jolie's dad. And yeah. in it, he it documents a thing that a lot of people don't know about, something called the Mountain Meadows Massacre. And it was when Brigham Young allowed or ordered, I think he ordered it ultimately, but ultimately he was responsible, I think, the slaughtering of a bunch of people who were passing through that Utah territory, which is like Mormon area at the time. It was kind of unsettled. The U.S. government didn't have much control out there. They slaughtered a bunch of people on their way to the Oregon Trail who were going off to Oregon or whatever. And it's called the Mountain Meadows Massacre, and they blamed it on the Native Americans. Like some of the Mormons even dressed up like Native Americans, and they may have enlisted some of the Native Americans to actually help them, but they kind of end up like blaming them. When you read it, my point is there's a movie about that. It's a kind of hard movie to watch, as you could imagine, because it includes slaughtering children. But when you watch it, one of the settlers is a girl, and she meets this Mormon boy, and they start to like each other. That's one of the subplots, right? You have one of the, not settlers, but the people passing through because they had to stay there a while. Mm-hmm. So they start talking, and he would always say Gentiles. And she's like, why are you calling us Gentiles? He would call them Gentiles, because a lot of those early Mormons thought that they were either physical or at the very least spiritual Israel, but most of them thought they were physical Israel, and the evidence was that they had embraced Mormonism. So my point is this stuff's there, but that's different than Anglo-Israelism, but the Worldwide Church of God is still around today, even though it's split up somewhat. But let me show you some of the books from the past to show you how deep this thing went. I already showed you this one. Real Israel versus Anglo-Israelism. Now, notice these are older books. George L. Rose. These are the kind of books where they don't even have a back cover.
Right.
You know, these old books, because that's when it was popular. So that's when people had to do books against this. This is from 1942. Original price of this book was $1.
Wow.
The author is a former adherent of the British Israel delusion and is consequently familiar with the teachings of this cult. He has repudiated the vagaries of the system and has written the most complete expose of British Israelism that I have seen. This book will be valuable to all Bible teachers and other Christian leaders who are asked questions about this cult. It will be a valuable treatise for those who become interested in the subtle teachings of British Israelism, but are not sufficiently versed in Scripture to meet its absurd interpretations of Holy Writ. They talk about them the same way Christian apologists talk about Hebrew Israelites today. Hebrew Israelites think it's a special hatred or something. Maybe people don't like Christian apologists. I get it. We can be kind of, rough around the edges. But we talked about these guys back in the same way. You see what I'm saying? Because that's what we do.
Right.
But let me show you. So let me show you. And we write books about the subjects, and then the cults disappear. That's what happens.
I was just about to say. So, and this would go back to Mormons a little bit, because with the way they thought about black people. I wonder, and I guess this would probably be a subject for another day. Like now in modern times with black people, I'm seeing more black people becoming Mormons. Do they whisper in their ear what tribe they are? Because we know back in the day, they looked at us a particular way. So, but yeah, it's kind of
interesting question. I don't know the answer to that question. It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. The racism against black folks in Mormonism, actually, they give it a heavenly reason. They say that in the war that took place in the heaven during the pre-existence, folks who became black or dark skinned sided with Satan or were neutral in the war. And so that they received black or dark skinned bodies because of their neutrality against God, against Jesus in the pre-heavenly war. So it's not that they didn't think that. Some people say they thought they didn't have souls. No, that's not what they said. Their rationale, I'm not saying it's right, obviously. Right. The rationale, though, had to do with a lack of valor, and that's literally the word they use. They use the word valor or nobility, the lack of valor in the pre-existence. So that's why they got. So it's basically a punishment for something you did up there.
Right.
But the reason you don't remember it is because they have the Men in Black. Look at this. They believe that's what happens before you drop down.
Okay.
But none of that's Christian. We don't believe you're sitting up in heaven prior and then come down.
Right.
That's not a Christian doctrine. You start when you're conceived.
Mm-hmm.
Now look at this. Heresies exposed. An expose of some of the prevailing heresies of the day, compiled by W.M. Irvine, with an introduction by Lewis Talbot. Yes, of Talbot School of Theology. And let's see when this one dropped. You see, these are older. This is from the first edition of this book is published in 1917.
Wow!
And look what this chapter is. British Israelism. On the 14th of July, 1930, the British Israel Ward Federation inserted a whole-page advertisement in the Times of India outlining their teaching, appealing, amongst others, to Indians for their support. It closes with these words: "This appeal is also to you, O brethren, who are yourselves Indians, but are verily also the sons of Jacob." So I don't know. I guess these guys thought that there could be Indians who were in Israel too. So just like now, these old Anglo-Israel groups had a bunch of different versions of who was in and who was out. Same thing. And notice now IUIC is a streaming channel, or they rent out a bus, or they take a billboard out. These guys were taking out pages in the newspaper.
Yeah, because me and Cap 10K were about to have a discussion. We were supposed to have it today, actually. Are Africans our people or Native Indians.
Oh boy.
And so, because again, the Native Indians are the tribe of Gad, and then I think it's like one tribe that's a separate tribe, but they have this idea that Native Indians and I didn't even know this, not only Native Indians, but like Aztecs and Mayans and I'm like the Olmecs, all of these people were the ancient Israelites as well. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So, I debated a guy on my channel specifically about that. And I mean, the most wild thing I think that I heard him say was there's a passage in the Bible that says, now the sons of Issachar were wise and knew the times and what Israel should do. And so it's saying that the children of Issachar in Israel understood the cultural and societal elements, and so they had good leadership for Israel at that time. That's what it's saying. They knew the times, knew what to do. This guy takes that passage from Chronicles and says, look, it says they knew the times, and then goes over to the Mayan calendar. Look, they knew the time. See the calendar they had? It was very precise. So this is fulfillment that Issachar are actually the people in these parts of Mexico who were native, because they also knew the times. And you're just like, bro, come on, man. Are you serious? Are you serious? That's the kind of stuff you're getting. Look at this. What's Wrong with Anglo-Israelism? By Lewis Talbot. I went to Talbot School of Theology. It's the graduate school of Biola. At the time, they just had Biola. He was the chancellor of Biola of LA. It's right there. Okay. So my point is, I went to a school after this guy's namesake. Look how it starts out. Page 3, published in 1956. One of the most fantastic, most amusing, and yet most tragic interpretations of the Word of God, which has ever been imposed upon the minds of Christian people, is that of Anglo-Israelism.
Wow.
This absurd system is built around the central theme of a supposed identification of the supposedly lost 10 tribes of Israel with the Anglo-Saxon peoples. In an attempt to answer the question, who and where are the lost tribes, the founders and leaders of this sect have included practically everything from the throne of David to the Great Pyramid of Egypt, from the prophet Jeremiah to the American flag, from the British coronation stone to the harp that hung in Tara's hall. One could ignore this cult as a harmless group of fanatics if it were not for the fact that already an estimated 2 million of people have embraced their teachings, and they are invading Protestant churches everywhere and leading children of God, particularly those of British descent, along dark labyrinths of twisted heretical thinking. Not only have they violated every accepted rule of geography, history, philology, has to do with language, physiology, and ethnology with their fables and their fancies, but they have wrongly divided the word of truth, and it is our responsibility as teachers of the word to warn men and women not to give heed to these cunningly devised fables, but to search the scriptures and bring these doctrines under the lens of Holy Writ. Literally what we would say about the Hebrews. They think it's some special thing, but it's been that way.
And if you didn't say when this book was written and specifically what it was about, I would think you or Eric Mason or Damon Richardson or somebody wrote that about what's happening today.
Yep.
That's
in fact,
crazy.
They're approaching 2 million in America as well. The numbers are literally almost the same. But see, you know what these folks said when Protestant ministers stood up against them? They're trying to stop the awakening. And they would accuse them of being in league with Jews. Same thing. Wow. Same old song, different verse. Look at this. And this goes to how old it is. It is quite generally agreed among scholars that Anglo-Israelism originates in the imagination. Now, notice how apologists, we do throw little shots, right? Originates in the imagination of a very eccentric Briton named Richard Brothers, who bestowed upon himself the high-sounding title of Nephew of the Almighty. In 1794, he wrote a book entitled Revealed Knowledge, in which he declared that he was a descendant of David, and that on November 19th, 1795, he would be revealed as the Prince of the Hebrews. Somehow this did not come off, but nothing deterred. He put out another book with the lengthy title, Correct Account of the Invasion of England by the Saxons, showing the English nation to be descendants of the lost 10 tribes. So when is the first book published? 1794. That's barely less than 20 years after the American War for Independence against the Britons.
18 years to be exact.
Yeah. Do you see how, like, that's a long time ago, man?
Yeah.
That's a long time. And
so it's like that whole nothing new under the sun thing is real.
Yeah. And I mean, look, the chaos of the cults. This is where they'll have a bunch of different ones. A study in present day isms. And guess what? Guess what's included in here? Now, if I picked up a book on cults today by an evangelical publisher, Anglo-Israelism is not going to be in there because nobody knows what it is. This is first published in 1938. 1938 is the first time this was published. And if you go, you look, you read, Chapter 9, Destiny of America, Anglo-Israelism. That's one of the things that's in that back then apologists. So these are books written by older apologists. Erdman, still an evangelical publisher around today, right? Here's another one, The Seed of Abraham. Now, the whole book isn't dedicated to it, but it has a section at the end dedicated to it. It's a pretty good book. This is another old book, 1950, Erdman's. I think this has those curious new cults. Well, you know, they were new when this was written, not new now. Keats Publishing, William J. Peterson, 1973. And it's specifically... So remember what I told you about Herbert Armstrong? It's chapter 10, Herbert Armstrong and his plain truth. And so there's a section in here about the Anglo-Israelites because it deals with that. So there's that.
Armstrong kind of sounds like what you're saying. He kind of let different types of people in. He kind of sounds like I forget his name, the one pastor that has the big compound, but he has
Dow.
There you go. Yeah. He got all kinds of people there, but he's specific about who the children of Israel is and who the children of Israel isn't. So it really is nothing new under the sun. This is crazy.
So here's another one, 1978, The New Phariseeism by Louis F. DeBoer. 1978. And look what it says. Some attempt to deal with the cult by ransacking their literature till they find some little known oddity that it professes and then hold this up to the world as evidence of their heresy. This is not the way to expose the dangers of any heretical sect and will scarcely jar its faithful or those who are already starting to fall under its spell. The way to deal with a cult is to take its most basic premises, those things that define it, that give it separate existence, and utterly annihilate them with the word of God. That is what this book has done with British Israelism. That's from the back of the book. That's what it says. Because that's what it's literally about. And notice the subtitle here. Watch how interesting this is. Because we as Christians feel like Hebrew Israelites have a problem with Paul. So did the Anglo-Israelites. Look at this. A study in its logical implications of the theology of British Israelism and a defense of Paul's gospel.
Wow.
The two things went hand in hand even back then. Because that was a thing. Now, I don't want to.
They would though, because Paul was the apostle to the Gentiles, and that they don't believe. Yeah, so
here's another one. This one is one of the newer ones. This is published in 1997. It's more of a booklet. Misidentified Identity: Examining the Doctrinal and Historical Claims of Christian Identity and British Israelism by Dr. Phil Stringer. I mean, look at the guys who wrote this book. You know, these are good old Baptist boys right here down here in Florida. You know, preach for the King James Version of the Bible. Gonna give you the Word of God unfiltered. You know, this is. I mean, and you see what's on the cover there too. So I'm just gonna show a couple more. Look at this: The Delusion of British Israelism. You know, like you could tell all these are older, right? You could tell this one is from Man, wow, this is, I can't find a date on this. Yeah, I can't find a date on this one, but someone could. I'll have to look this one up. But I mean, it's so these are all booked by older Christians, apostles of discord, and then there's a whole chapter in this. This is not a book about Hebrew Israelism or English Israelism, but it has a chapter in it. The self-appointed chosen people. So those are just the Christian ones. That's not even the ones written by them. Here's some of the ones written by them. The Anglo-Israel thesis. Compelling evidence the Caucasian Europeans descended from the ancient Israelites. The story of Celto-Saxon Israel. This one's like even hardcover, man. This one's got charts and graphs and pictures. Biblical truth. The lost 10 tribes of Israel in the West, according to the book of Genesis by Yardavidi. Look at that's the guy in the back. That's the guy I'm trying to have on the show. Now I'm going to show you one last because that one's going to blow your mind. Israel's tribes today, Stephen Collins. And he's got these modern, like European places on it. Like those are some kind of evidence. Now look at this one. This is called The Tribes, 4th edition. Look how thick this book is. What's on the front, bro?
Wow. Is it so?
Yep, they got their own 12 tribes chart. They've been on there. Look who we got, man. And just like, remember in the Mormons?
So Manasseh is the USA?
Yeah, remember with the Mormons who I said my buddy, what he said most Mormons got?
Yeah, okay.
He said most of them got Manasseh.
Yeah.
Reuben is France. Gad is Sweden. Asher is Ireland. You know that Dan is the Danish because, the Danes are from Denmark, and it's named after Dan. Dan left his mark. Denmark. Dan, the tribe of Dan.
To quote Shakespeare, Hamlet specifically, I think it's something rotten in Denmark.
But these dudes use the name Denmark as if it's Dan
connected to Dan. Yeah,
that's these guys still be doing that stuff with the area, the area of Africa, the Ouida. Well, that's Judah.
That's Judah, right? The king. Oh man,
it sounds alike. The Hiscos. I mean, everything is right. Everything they do. The sound alike game, right? I mean,
that Judah and Whiter thing is. But let me ask you this, because what's the logic behind the U.S. being, because they broke away from Britain? So what tribe is Britain?
I think it's mainly Manasseh, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, because I'm like, so because if Britain is. Why would the U.S. and Britain be different tribes? But if they're the same, then I guess they do got some logic to it. But wow, this is crazy.
And watch this. Hey, so if you want to see, let's look, and let's actually look at some of their evidences they give. You tell me when you want to stop this, but I'm gonna actually show you. Just hold on to them. I know that's the website I already had, but I'm gonna bring this other one over here. I'm gonna show you some of the actual reasons or a rationale that they give. This is from a Christian apologetics website, and they include some of their works here. I'm gonna have to blow this up here, make sure everyone can see it here. Okay. Can you see it if I bring it up here? Okay, let me make it a little bit bigger here. Make it a little bigger here. Okay. All right. See the top here? A ranking authority on Anglo-Israelism is Professor Odlum. He's the author of an unusual book in defense of the Anglo-Israel theory. The book bears the title God's Covenant Man, British Israel. Now, I'll stop right there. British Israel, God's Covenant Man. If you listen to Don Ya'ala and some of these other dudes, they say, well, Brit means covenant in Hebrew, and Ish is man. So Brit-ish is covenant man. So that's evidence that the original rulers of Britain were us folks. These folks use it as evidence that no, the original inhabitants of Britain were white Jews, basically, and then they lost their identity. So look at some of their evidences here. 1, England is eating up the earth, as Israel was told he would do. And so this is where they're quoting, they will quote Bible verses here. So basically there's a passage that says Israel will eat up the earth, and they'll say, well, that's what England did with the colonial system. Look at number 2. We must rule the nations, for he who has so decreed says, for the nation and the kingdom that will not serve the Israel shall perish. Yea, these nations shall utterly be wasted. So they quote Old Testament like victory passages, and Britain says this happened. See? 3, henceforth there are no nations, no people, but one and indivisible will be the world, and the world will be one Britain. So they basically they're going to take over the world. The sun in its diurnal journey never ceases to look down on some portion of the British Empire. We cannot but discern the hand of God, which has grown until now. She looms up with a power that will soon fill and control the human family. So this 4th point, this is a quote from this book. They're saying the British Empire was evidence of the hand of God giving them success. What else could explain it? Just like what else could explain the curses? Well, what else could explain the success, right? Look at these Britons all over the world. They keep gaining territory and establishing permanent and benign rule. So they're righteous rulers, see? 6ly, if Britain be Israel, a descendant of David is on the throne of England. This to a believer in the Bible needs no argument. The scriptures are very explicit on this point. Where the house of Israel is, there is a Davidic sovereign. So look, these dudes were like, well, if we're Israel, then whoever's ruling us has to be a descendant of David. And notice how like confident they talk about it, just like a Hebrews like today. It's clear, it's obvious, you can't argue with it. Number 7, these promises prove that Britain shall never fall or be conquered by any nation or other power, not even by bloody Babylon, the Scarlet Woman. 8, these are quotes from a book defending Anglo-Israelism, everyone. And while Joseph owns the stone, it is the throne stone of the seed royal from David of the tribe of Judah, and King George V is the Judaic representative. I mean, it goes on. Therefore, Britain is Israel officially and in a national capacity. Therefore, no other nation is or can be Israel. 11, when any kingdom fills the whole earth, there's no room for any other kingdom. This is the coming future. All the kingdoms must serve Israel, Britain. Hey, Captain Tazariak, or what's your Captain 10K, whatever. He could have said this and just change out where it says Britain.
Oh man.
Thus, while Israel must be at the head of the nations of the earth, he must also carry spiritual and material blessings to all nations. Only one nation in the history of the world has been doing this as fully as is Great Britain today and for past centuries. By the way, Anglo-Saxon. Now, you're going to see a little bit here at 13. They take Saxon, saying they go into the etymology of it and try to prove that it Saxon comes from Isaac's sons. Isaac's sons.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. Britain is that gateholder, and Britons are Saxons, the sons of Isaac, according to divine promise. Further, Britons are the British, and the word British is a compound of 2 Hebrew words, Brit, a covenant, and Ish, a man, the covenant man. Hebrew Israelites literally use that argument today. Danya Allah has a video about it where he tries to use it in service of One West. So let me stop right here. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna show these again, but I want to say something. To me, this is plain evidence that somebody at Old One West was reading or getting a hold of or hearing some old Anglo-Israelite arguments.
I was about to say, like,
yeah, it's too unique of an argument and too, frankly, insane. There's no it is absolutely certain the Anglo-Israelites were using this specific argument before. So Arya or somebody had to have had some kind of access and knowledge to the arguments.
It's like copy and paste. But except for like, so the successes don't fit, but the curses can fit. So like it's like when you copy off of somebody's website when I was doing my college courses, like, and you can't get you trying to avoid getting flagged for plagiarism, but it's some stuff you have to take and you got to kind of that's what it sounds like somebody did. This is crazy.
I know. See, and I gotta tell you, man, to me, this is all very powerful. First of all, it's important. I care about this stuff. We should care about truth, right? Most Hebrew Israelites that I've seen, they're so deep into where they're at. Rarely does any of this faze them. To be honest, a lot of times they don't understand what's being said. They'll say, "Oh, so Vocab, you think that Brits are the real Jews?" No, that's not what I'm saying. Why are you? But that's what they'll say in response.
Right.
That's the kind of dumb response I get. And no matter how many times I say, they're like, what I just heard you say. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm showing you this is way before. And then as a response, they'll say, oh, well, and Nat Turner said we were Israelites before or something like that.
Somebody just posted that on Facebook and I was like, what?
So I have told them again and again, show me the Nat Turner quote. Don't show me what we all know if you've looked into Nat Turner, is that like a lot of folks of his day, he used parallels between the Israelite situation and the situation of enslaved black folks. We all know that. He's not saying black folks are Israelites, though. That's what they try to. So they'll say Prosy or Vesey, whatever it is. Sometimes I don't say those names right, but Gabriel Prosser and Vesey, Denmark Vesey, they don't say it. I've never seen. They'll tell you they said they did not say it. So the first explicit evidence, and shout out to N82D2 in the live chat. Much love to that brother. He's being facetious there. Exactly. The first evidence we have is in the 1890s. It starts with Reverend William Christian and shortly after Reverend William Crowdy. Now there could have been someone before, but those are the first recorded evidence, and both those guys say they got it from a vision. And Hebrews like, well, we don't care because we don't follow them. Yeah, but it shows your religion has a birthday, and the birthday was not that long ago.
Yeah, and then they say that, and didn't Oriah have a vision when it came to the 12 tribes chart? At least that's the claim. The chart and the language. The language was revealed to him by a man in a gray suit who came and sat in his kitchen. Wow. That's that. But see, we hear different versions of this, but that's what we've heard. But the thing is, what's weird is you talk to the old timers. Now, a lot of them have died, but thank God we got some of their interviews online. They said Abba Bivens already had a 12 tribe chart he was working on. Abba Bivens was prior to Ariah. Abba Bivens was one of the guys who led Ariah and his father out of the commandment keepers, because Ariah came with his father when they left. His father was Yaiquab, I believe, Ariah's father. And Ariah had a bar mitzvah. We have a picture of it. So they were obviously influenced by mainstream Judaism, and I think they bit off some of these arguments from these Anglo-Israelites. Now look at they literally use the same type of argumentation, and it was Shadi then and it's Shadi now. This is continue on. So this is from Anglo-Israelite work here, and I'll give the source again, but the pages are right here. Look at how they argue. They try to show it's a fulfillment of prophecy. Even now, Britain has full possession of Egypt, most of Arabia, nearly all ancient Mesopotamia, and is the present holder of the Sudan and the headwaters of the Nile. Already, she is moving steadily towards Jerusalem. What is that? What they're trying to say is they're going to retake their own promised land. Look at verse 15. This is funny to me, but it's wild. Those who have cursed Britain will be cursed until they confess and pray for forgiveness. This applies to the cursing Germans today. So when, Germany attacked, it's a real, look at 17, how Britain has become a multitude of nations. Look at 18. Who does not know how in Britain the overlordship in any given state, particularly the realty, was passed on from father to elder son? This is quite an Israelitish trait of character and custom. He's trying to say the way that the Brits transfer property is evidence that they are inherited Israelite customs. Bro, I hate to say this one. There's a verse in the Old Testament that talks about fried foods. Hebrew Israelites use that to say, look, the Bible prophesies we would like fried food. Oh, my goodness. And I'm not kidding. There's a meme about it. There's a meme. These guys are, and I thought it was a parody at first. And they're like, no, the Bible says that we knows what we like. I'm like, man. Hey, bro. I asked Cap one time. We were talking, and I was telling them that, I know a lot of my family's lineage, right? And on my father's side and on my mother's side. And because my question was this. We all know the unfortunate history that my ancestors went through in this country. And we know that, it was a high number of rape on these plantations from our female ancestors. And they, not only would the slave master rape them, the overseers would rape them. That other plantation owners would rape them, as they would be loaned out to them like, pieces of meat. And unfortunately, because of the frequency of the raping, children would come as a result of this. And so I'm asking Cap, I'm like, when I do my DNA, you see 10% European DNA. Well, of course, they don't believe in DNA tests, because that'll reveal too much. And so he was like, well, and I asked him, like, how do y'all know who's father? Like, how far back do y'all go? And he was telling me that they can look at, the generals can just look at somebody.
Oh yeah. They teach that they can read spirits.
And I'm like, so, because my point being that if you are a descendant of a slave in America, the further you go back, maybe not your father, but your father's 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 father is probably a European. Not by choice, but just by virtue of what our ancestors had to deal with. And so I don't care how far back you go, your father's 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 father, if he's a European, then that makes you not an Israelite according to your own doctrine. But they say that you can just look at a person. So I'm just wondering how many people they got in there who because I look, and I'm not a look at a person type of guy.
Right.
But as light skinned as my man Captain Tazoriak is, and you telling me, bro, you won't have no mixed heritage nowhere in your lineage, knock it off, man. Now I ain't gonna even touch Captain Katazan. I ain't gonna even touch that. But I'm just saying, like that right there get a little nuts for me. So
sometimes they'll use 1 Corinthians 13, the spirits of prophets are subject to prophets. Sometimes they use that as evidence that they can read spirits. Sometimes I wish, that video where Sa had the young gentleman who was West African. He's talking to Tazariak, and he's like, you can't come into the ISUPK barbecue. Sometimes I wish they would have let Sa wouldn't have told him, and they would have went into the barbecue, and then afterwards, like, hey, you think this brother's an Israelite? Yeah. And then reveal it after the fact.
Yeah.
But sometimes
he probably would have never talked to Sinetta again, though. So
that would be an example. Put it to the test, man. Is reading. What's crazy, man? I've seen when Hispanic guys sometimes leave one of these One West schools, and I've heard these other Israelites, usually black Israelites, say stuff like, man, you're probably a conquistador anyway. Like the saying, like you're like that's evidence, right? And the funniest one was where Tahar, when he was beefing with Nathaniel back in the day, there's a video where he's talking about stuff Nathaniel was saying, and this is leader of IUIC is Nathaniel, and Tahar goes, you're starting to look a little like a Watusi to me.
What the hell?
He's saying you're starting to look like an African, a Hamite, not a Semite, because of the doctrine. It's like maybe actually you're not one of us. Maybe you're a tear. So this is
when I made the flyer for the conversation Cap and I were gonna have on, or Africans our people, or Native Indians our people. This dude literally texted me and said, you need to put some real Africans on there. And I was like, what are you talking about? So he didn't know I actually knew the people who I put on the flyer, like Baba Nana Kofi here in St. Louis has a community center called Sabae, where you have different African-centered groups come in and teach and do community work. Mm-hmm. I'm a part of that circle. So these are people I've met because he built a clinic in Ghana and was made a chief in a village. And so these people came to honor him. So I actually met these people. Two of the sisters on there, sister named Boyo and a sister named Eve, one from Ghana, one from Nigeria. I worked with them when I used to work for the library. So he didn't know that they were actually African. And you know what this joker told me? We're the bone eaters. Like, we're the people with the plates and the bones in their nose. And I was like, Cap, those look like Israelites who think they African. I'm like, bruh.
He literally wants like a stereotypical like he wants the stereotypical, almost like the old Disney cartoons or something, like the old, he wants like that kind of character.
Like a minstrel magazine type of, I'm like, nah, bro.
Like it's crazy, man. I mean, I don't know how much more you want to go through, but when there's so many more resources and there is a lot available online once you actually start looking, but sum it up from this book that kind of tells you what it's about. And all the blessings indicated here have come upon Britain and her people. Ergo, Britain is Joseph. So that's the essence of Anglo-Israelism right there. And they use the same kind of arguments. And, we only went through 23 of them. There's 42 quotes there from that. And, there's a lot more to say. And they try to say, history, da-da-da. And so I am trying to get one of these guys on the show. And I told him, hey, man, when you come on, I'm probably not even going to try to debate you. I'd like to just hear you present your position because I don't fully understand Anglo-Israelism. And I bet when I do that, I'm going to get these Hebrew Israelites thinking that, look, vocab, they probably think I'm caping for Anglo-Israelism or something then at that point. But
you already know it's going to get spent.
Yeah, But I mean, that is it. It still does exist. It's in mutated forms in other organizations or groups now. And it was a rising thing at one point, and it is older than Hebrew Israelism. And I think it's really important. In fact, some of the arguments that I use against Hebrew Israelites, I get from old apologist books against Anglo-Israelism. Literally, you can use the arguments contra as well.
Okay.
Because the arguments against Anglo-Israelism, some of them also defeat Hebrew Israelism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's that's what's up, man. And so hopefully people know, but I plan on learning about this more as I go. But but Anglo-Israelites, I don't think that if you stand against them, they accuse you of watching gay porn though, like the Hebrew Israelites do with me.
Bruh, come on, man. That right there. Oh man, like again, I was literally under the impression that somebody like if somebody recording you like the back of your head, and then here's the TV, and you ask, because that's how it was.
That's how it was presented to you. What has happened, right?
Yeah, and so I'm like, man, I don't want to touch this, and so I'm like, okay, let me click on it because it's Sakari. So like I said, I can't stand the sound of Deacon Sakari's voice, so I'm skipping, and I'm like, okay, it ain't what was. So I'm like,
when you were told it, they even told you that they deleted the footage, but they got the real footage back up or something like that.
Yeah. So I'm like, was it one of his kids? Because the narrative is you're going through, you left your wife and the kids upset with you. So I'm like, damn, was it one of his kids? I'm like, man, this. So I'm kind of like, damn, this messed up. And then it's the situation from Berean TV that I had already saw.
Right.
I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So yeah, man. Hey, the hate is real. Like that. I've heard some stuff that I wouldn't even like. You notice, like I ain't never inboxed you like, hey, bro. But that right there, I was like, come on, man. Woo.
Yeah, it's a long list of stuff. Every now and then someone checks in like, hey, did you see this one? Did you see this one? I'm like, and you always got to wonder, what in the world are they basing this thing off? Because I know it's not true. Where do they even get the notion to? And then you see it, you're like, wow, I never would have guessed. Yeah, Nate. But that kind of thing is going to happen. I think till I die, as long as I stay with this. And I think then after I'm dead, they'll still do a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I think it just comes with the nature of the territory. And I wish these guys have seen, like, they get real excited. I think it's like they think, they think they've got a Christmas gift or something. They don't believe in Christmas, but they feel like, wow, the Most High has blessed us with this information. And then you look at it, you're like, what are you talking about, man? So I think they're going to keep on doing that. I think that's how it is. But I want them to know that I love them and I really don't care. And I'm still going to destroy their false doctrine and all these fake attacks. Or they'll convince their followers, that's probably true. And I guess that's probably why they don't care about lying. But anybody who's like halfway objective, be like, nah, these dudes just lying. Why are they so afraid to talk about the issues here?
It's like the brother Nate 2D2 said, like you're trying to stop the awakening of both the black and British Israelites. Like the blacks and whites are the true Israelites. Like, why are you doing this, Vocab? But and that's what's interesting about it. Me and my brother, nobody talk about this all the time. Like, I had this thing where I was like, man, why is this dude constantly talking about Kemet? He talking about the NOI, the Moors, like the Israelites. Why is this dude tripping off what we do as black people? And so, and then G-Con, reached out to you. And the thing that struck me about it was you could have ignored it, because I think I probably had 100 subscribers at the time. You could have ignored it, or you could have responded on your show, but you decided to jump over here and chop it up with us and answer and address the stuff. So I'm like, okay, so all of this stuff I'm hearing, I'm like, I might have to reconsider this, because you step right in and then I'm trying to hold people off from asking. You like, nah, bring them in. So I'm like, okay, I might have had the wrong idea. So. But I think sometimes you just have to have a conversation and see where you land, instead of just, listening to what other people are saying or making a observation based on something you heard here or something you heard there. Just actually talk to the person.
Yeah, and maybe that's a good place to talk about a little before we go, which is this. I have found in general, and, I don't say this is not to pit anyone against anyone. I'm not about that. I'm just trying to be objective. In general, with rare exceptions, people who say they in some way practice Kemet to be much more fair-minded and equitable than most Hebrew Israelites. And again, that's not trying to pit anyone against each other, but it actually kind of hurts my heart. And I'll tell you why. Because, you and I are friendly, but you don't believe the Bible's the word of God. You wouldn't say that. You don't think that's what it is. Jabari doesn't think that. He thinks, not everybody, but people say, it's been altered by white folks, or it's ripped off from Kemet. There's different versions, but Hebrew Israelites would say they believe the Bible's the word of God. Well, I would think hypothetically we could have somewhere more of an agreement and kind of a disagreement that looks like, somewhat mature. But it's just not the case. I mean, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, they opened up a shrine of Ma'at here in Phoenix. This is only the second one. And I know everybody in Kemet is not following what Jabari does. I understand that. But right. I'm saying he's a representative.
Good dude.
Yeah, and he has a lot of integrity. I've never, you won't see me saying, well, I think Jabari actually... I think he's sincerely wrong. I don't think he's wrong about everything. Look, whenever I hear Jabari talk, I always learn something almost every time, because he has a lot of knowledge and information. We have strong disagreements about some of his interpretation of facts, and no one's perfect, so no one has all their facts right either. But I don't think he's like lying about stuff, whatever. But I always learn something, because he is trying to study and all that. And I gave them the heads up. I said, hey, look, I know you guys are opening this up. It's a 2-day weekend. You're doing a bunch of events. I'd like to show up. Here's who I'd bring. I'm not, I won't record nothing unless you say, but I'm not there to debate. I just want to understand better. So I'd like to watch and try to talk to you guys. Is that okay? Yeah. They didn't have a problem. They didn't search me. They didn't pat me. They didn't. Other people were taking pictures during certain parts, so I took pictures just like everyone else. I wasn't doing anything abnormal. It wasn't like. And then they even posted some of the ceremonies online, so they weren't trying to hide anything anyway. And everyone there treated me with kindness and gentleness. Now, when they're up there speaking, yeah, they're going to say stuff that might make the average, like the average Christian be like, oh, especially if they're, a white Christian probably. But like, if you've been around stuff, then you're okay with it. So I don't expect them to talk any different because I'm there, and they didn't. And that's okay. I can handle it. I'm a big boy. But on the side, these are really kind, respectful people. And I didn't meet I wasn't worried about nothing. I wasn't worried about anything because they were just great. And see, I've seen that now, not with everybody, but I'm like, look, if I can be friendly and respectful with Jabari and even make jokes about our disagreements, because we made some jokes about stuff, and we can see each other in person and then still go at it, but still why can't it be like that with more of these guys? And it's not just me, almost any Christian, say it's a black Christian, these guys, if they get resistance from them, they automatically say the craziest things about them. You mentioned G-Con. They were in Clubhouse because G-Con called me last night. They were in G-Con. They were calling G-Con basically they were saying, they were using different words, but they were saying that G-Con likes men. And he's like, what? What do you? And he's like, well, because Vocab's your friend. And he's like, what are you talking? So now it's even extended. So anyone that goes up against them, this is the kind of stuff they bring, right? Wow. And so it's like, bro, why does it got to be like this? But long term, it won't last. All these lies and smoke screen, they don't last.
They say that now. You've seen Jabari's wife, or you've seen her probably on pictures.
No, I saw her in real life because she came to the debate in Philly, and I was there in person.
There you go. So everybody knows this man has a wife who he is highly respectful of,
yes,
highly conscious of, and they still say that this man is gay. Like, do you hear me? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because he speaks eloquently and has a particular cadence. He's gay.
It's wild. It's wild. There was a part during the event where Jabari had went in to wash his hands because it was at the end of the event. We were going to eat. And so I got some food from the vendors. So like the Kemetic folks also in general are usually, from what I've seen, more involved with like the larger community and not as hostile towards everyone just because they don't see eye to eye. And so there were people there who maybe weren't necessarily on the same track, but who were still involved in some way because they saw maybe some positive things for the community. So they had local vendors there for food, for example. And I was there, so I'm going to support, right? So I went in to wash my hands, and Jabari was washing his hands, and I was like, oh, boy. It's like, don't let the Hebrew Israelites hear this story. We were washing our hands at the same time in the back. They're going to turn into some story, and he knew exactly what we started laughing about it. Like, yeah, we'll never let this story get out. But of course, I'm telling right now because I don't care because these dudes are crazy. But like, it was kind of, we made a joke about it because we know how it is. And I have heard, I've seen Jabbar. I see how he talks about his wife, very respectful and all that. And he's cool. And it doesn't matter. They'll still say this kind of thing.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
I wanted to, because, I tell everybody my wife is still a Christian, and I credit her being a Christian and her belief on us still being married, because we got married when I was 20 and she was 18 or 19. And, we right out of high school, buying a house, had a kid, got married.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, I'm open about the fact that I have bipolar 2 disorder. So, and it was just, you're 21, it just started to manifest. So this was like, I didn't know what was happening. She didn't know what was happening. My family didn't. So you can imagine this, 19-year-old, 20-year-old girl, like, what? Hey, have he always been like this? And I just didn't know, because we've known each other our whole lives. And so, and I tell people it was her faith and her belief that got us through that period. We wouldn't be married if she wasn't a Christian, if her family weren't Christians. I call her uncle, which is my uncle pastor. He's now the pastor of the church that she attends, and we got married in.
Okay.
Years ago. So like that's my family. That's why you'll never catch me talking bad about the black church. I can talk about the belief and why I no longer believe in it and why I have questions about it. But
Right.
the people, you'll never catch me talking bad about the people. That's ridiculous. So I don't understand why people don't understand how to be nuanced in certain conversations. And I wanted to interview her on the channel and just, tell people that story. I've told it, but just heard it from her perspective. But see, I'm on YouTube, but I'm not a YouTuber per se, because if somebody disrespect my wife, like, it's not, I'm gonna have a serious problem with it. And I'm not Sarnetta, where you have, and I like Sarnetta a lot. That's the Godfather and all of that, and peace to him. And I understand that he the bigger person in a lot of these situations where people run off at the mouth about his wife and his kids, and he'll squash it, and still, you're not coming back on my platform if you say something crazy about my wife. And when I see you, you're gonna have to say that to my face. So I don't play them type of games, and so I don't understand that, and I don't want to put her on here, and then, because I'm gonna have to deal with that if somebody take that path, and so I'm hesitant to even have the interview, and it's sad that you got to be worried about that kind of stuff because of the environment that that we find ourselves in. It's crazy out here, but hey,
yep, that's it. That's how it is, man.
So
it doesn't have to be that way, but some people won't deal with the issues because of that kind of people going that route, but other people are like, oh, okay. And so what you end up with is people who they just don't care about that anymore. So you end up with certain kind of people who are like, okay, well, that's how you're going to be. And they don't go away, just because, you say crazy stuff. I can't tell you how many times Hebrew Israelites have said, Vocab, you're through. Like, well, I've been through since 2016, according to y'all, but until the Lord says I'm done. Then, I recently did a couple of videos on Kemet. In fact, one dropped this morning, and I know you might review those and criticize them, and I won't take any of it personal. And, I don't,
I think I even hit you up and said, I'm gonna do a little, because some things I just, and I one thing in particular, like young Pharaoh. To me, and no knock on the video at all. And I love the sister D Nu. Got the utmost respect for you. So it's not that part is not an issue. But young Pharaoh being considered comedic is, to me he don't fit that criteria. So
okay.
That's one thing that I just give you just a preview of one of the things that I'd be like, what, that don't work for me, because just given his, like, if you contrast him and Jabari, it's so that type of thing, that's the type of thing I'll be looking at. But like, no knock on the video whatsoever. And I'm even now, the brother that was on the video with y'all, do he have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I think he does. I think it's called Echoes. I should link to it in there. Yeah, Michael Williams. He's more of like an interviewer, like a media guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Michael Williams. Yeah, I think it's called Echoes.
I've been angling to get an interview with D Nu for the longest, but she keep curving me. So
hear that, D Nu? Well, I'll let her know again, and if she's interested, I'll let you know, or she hits you up.
Hey, Queen, the offer is still out there, man. Just go, I'm just trying to get your testimony. That's all. That's like I say to all my Christian brothers and sisters. Just come on and give your testimony. But hey, bro, I appreciate it, man. And like I say, you always welcome over here to come and chop it up. And this, to me, was very enlightening with regards to the fact that you had these British or Anglo Israelites with the same talking points with a little bit of variation here and there as our Hebrew brothers have and sisters have today. And that is strong evidence that they may have taken these talking points from this group. So one group is pushing, the white hierarchy, and now we got another group pushing the black hierarchy. The only problem is this other group precedes this new group, and even the apologists who were going at the group sound exactly like the apologists going at the group we had today. So this idea of nothing new being under the sun is heavy with this particular topic. But everybody always say this brother don't never talk about what white people do with regards to heresies and the Bible and this and that. We just proved that to be false. So I appreciate y'all checking us out. And bro, you know, you always welcome, man. When I come up with something else, you know, I'll shoot you a text or a holler, and we'll see what we can do.
Hey, appreciate it, man. You have a beautiful night and a great weekend. And hopefully, I know we didn't get connected this summer. I know we were working on it. Hopefully next time we'll go through St. Louis, we can.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right,
family.
God bless.
Yes, sir.
Peace, 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 peace.
That's been Paradigm Shift TV, family. So we'll be back at it again. Hope y'all enjoyed this bill. Vocab Malone always come with great information. So y'all check us out. We got some good stuff coming up. We got Nobody gonna be coming back on more in the future. Of course, we got the Slim Reaper Leandre, and we got the tournament for the as I call it, the fact fights tournament with Leandre and some other debaters that's coming up. So stay tuned, man. We're trying to build some interesting topics for y'all, interesting discussions and interesting presentations. And we, as always, I appreciate you rocking with us. We're gonna get out of here. Until next time, that's peace. We out.